Hello, my name is Claire Hope. I am the Processing and Digital Archivist at the Virginia Museum of History and Culture. Welcome to Curators at Work. This is a monthly series where members of our staff share stories from the museum's collections and discuss the work we are doing to develop a better understanding of Virginia's complicated history. For those of you joining us live on Facebook or YouTube, please feel free to post your feedback and questions in the comments section, and we will respond to as many of you as possible at the end of our discussion. None of the work we do would be possible without the generous support of our members. The VMHC does not receive state operating support, and it is through private donations that we are able to offer programs like this, so thank you. Today's Curators at Work is a conversation with Judd Proctor and Brian Burns. Judd and Brian are LGBTQ activists and creators of the Rainbow Minute, a serial radio show about gay and lesbian heroes, history, and culture. Judd and Brian recently gifted the VMHC a comprehensive LGBTQ collection. The Proctor Burns collection includes the Rainbow Minute research files and recordings, their personal activism files, an LGBTQ book collection, including children's books, and numerous artifacts. So let's get started. Hello, Judd. Hello, Brian. How are you both today?
We're good, Claire. How are you?
Good. It's
good. I'm doing great. I'm glad you guys are here.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us too.
Of course. So the Rainbow Minute was created after you decided to underwrite This Way Out, which is an LGBTQ news radio program for Richmond's WRIR station. Can you tell us a little bit about how that came about?
I'm going to actually let Judd talk about this. This was the Rainbow Minute was sort of his baby. He took it off and ran with it, and I was just sort of there to pitch in when he needed me.
Brian made it sound gorgeous and worthy of listening to.
Well, I just did some editing of the scripts. He did most of everything else.
So what we were doing is we were driving in our car down in Shockoe Bottom, and we were trying to find a new radio station. You know how you just turn the dial and something comes up. Mm-hmm. And we heard International Gay and Lesbian Magazine, This Way Out, from Los Angeles. And we thought, wow, there's a gay show in Richmond on the radio.
Actually, you were in the car by yourself, I think. But anyway.
So when I got back, I told Brian, I said, I heard a gay radio show. It's from Los Angeles. We need to support the station that's airing that. We should be underwriters. You know, an underwriter gives the station a hefty donation, and they say, this program was brought to you by
whoever it is.
Yeah, whoever it is. And it's usually a business. So we had to figure out how can we do it with just us, Judd Proctor and Brian Burns.
Yeah, we weren't advertising anything.
So we called the station, and they got us connected us with the person in charge of underwriting, and her name was Liz. And we met with her the very next day, and we wrote a check for $1,000 to the station, and we were underwriters of the show that we were listening to, This Way Out, which is one of the oldest LGBTQ magazines in the world. It's been running forever. So
radio magazine, yeah.
So we would play this little blurb, and the first one we thought we'd do is we were familiar with Harvey Milk and his coming out quote. So we went ahead and ran that first.
Yes, and we actually have that audio. So here we go. We're going to get it set up.
This program half hour is brought to us because of a financial gift from Judd Proctor and Brian Burns. They contributed in honor of Harvey Milk, the first openly gay person elected to the Board of Supervisors in San Francisco. Harvey said, "Every gay person must come out. Once they realize we are indeed their children, and we are indeed everywhere, every myth, every lie, every innuendo will be destroyed once and for all."
And if there's anybody out there who doesn't think that's a great quote, we'll read it for you again later on so you can understand what a sweet quote that really is. Coming next, This Way Out. Stick around at WRIR 97.3 LPFM, Richmond's indie radio. Radio for the rest of us, radio for all of us, radio for everybody, everywhere, anywhere, anytime.
And you can tell that the announcer was very enthusiastic. In fact, Dustin Richardson read the quote, and he told me that before they went on the air, they were arguing about who would read it, because it's the first time they've ever read something like that on the air, and they were fighting over it. So we ran that for 8 weeks. And then the Liz came to me and she said, well, don't you want to pick another famous LGBT person? And we did. We picked Philip Johnson, who, by the way, designed the old designed that old radio studio on Church Hill that sat on the cliff.
Oh, is that right?
He designed that building.
Oh, how cool.
He's known for designing glass skyscrapers
all over the nation.
All over the nation.
Wow. Oh my gosh. So did that one also run for a number of weeks?
That ran for about a month.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we started we were picking gay LGBTQ heroes because gay youth need role models.
That's right. Yeah.
And we want to provide those. And, society it was our goal to make sure society understood that there were famous LGBT people in history that have made significant contributions.
And I think the Rainbow Minute is so successful in doing that. I've talked about this before, but you have the contributions of LGBTQ people in every field imaginable. There's history, medicine, industry, armed forces, politics, entertainment. And you also cover much broader topics. You cover stereotypes, protests, movements, LGBTQ rights. Is that something that you originally intended the show to do, those broad categories?
Well, we
have developed as you did it?
Well, for one thing, we didn't know how to record any episodes. We didn't know how to do that. So there were two people at the station that trained us, Sarah and Dustin. You just heard Dustin. And I asked Dustin if he would do all of our episodes that are related to a gay quote. It's time for Who Said That on this episode of the Rainbow Minute. So he did. He was the voice of all of those. And then I asked my friend Tom Miller if he would do the On This Day in History, coming up now in the Rainbow Minute. And you give a date, and it's an important date in LGBT history.
The show did evolve. First we started out just sort of profiling some famous people. And then to keep it fresh, we decided to broaden it because we were doing an episode every day.
Yeah.
And our first research book is this book here. And it's called Gay Icons. And I like it because it's ranking of the most influential gay men and lesbians, past and present. So this author picked the ones from 1 to 100, with 1 being the most important or influential. And number 1 is Socrates. Number 2 is Sappho. Number 3 is Oscar Wilde.
And it goes from there.
And it goes all the way through to 100. Dr. Tom Waddell is 87. And number 100 is Michelangelo Signorelli.
Yeah.
I met him at Fielding's, which was a old dance place after hours. I met him years ago and didn't know it was him until after I talked to him.
Yeah. Oh.
You get to meet, gosh, I've met so many heroes. I've met Frank Kameny. I met Barbara Giddings. I met the mayor of Austin, Texas.
Frank, who's the?
I met Candace Gingrich. In fact, I asked Candace if she would record for us, and she said, "Well, I'm going to be at UVA. Come on up to UVA, and we can record." So I asked her, "Who are her heroes?" Well, she gave me a list of heroes. I researched them. Brian made it sound good. He edited it, and we took it up there to UVA, and then we tried to find a place we could record. She was giving a talk to the gay youth at the University of Virginia, and we found an old board room with big puffy chairs, and we put all the puffy chairs together and made a sound studio.
Yeah, we had to absorb the sound somehow. So,
and we took this umbrella, which is a rainbow umbrella, and we put it over top of Candace, and we made our own sound studio. She sounds good.
It worked. Somehow it worked.
It's amazing that you were able to do that.
Yeah, and we thought we would
A number of very famous people reading for you.
Mm-hmm.
Politicians, and people have asked, right? They come to you and ask.
Oh yeah, and listeners at the radio station have asked, and my friends have asked, can I do that? Can I do one of those?
Yeah.
So now how many volunteers do you have on your list?
There's about 200 volunteers, and there are 2,000 episodes now, all around a minute long. And we're writing, sometimes we write just a few to make a bookmark out of, but we don't record anymore because we want to go on to other LGBTQ things.
Of course. And here we can see the logo, which Brian, you created.
I did. That was towards the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a little bit of a background in graphics.
Mm-hmm.
And you see how it says gay and lesbian heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we actually have LGBTQ heroes, but back when we started this radio show, you didn't hear all the other letters. You heard gay and lesbian, then you heard GLBT,
Mm-hmm.
GLB, and then GLBT. Then you heard LGBT,
Mm-hmm.
and then you heard LGBTQ.
That's right.
And then you heard LGBTQ and some other letters that follow.
So I apologize if this logo is outdated.
Well, thank you, Brian. It still looks great.
Thanks.
And I can attest to that. The Rainbow Minute covers, you have transgender rights, you have everything imaginable. So you're definitely an inclusive show.
Well, we want to include the minorities within our LGBTQ community, which include African American episodes,
Mm-hmm.
women, South Pacific,
Native American.
Mm-hmm.
Native American in November, Hispanic.
Mm-hmm.
This is starting the 15th of September is Hispanic Heritage Month. And it's the only month that goes between 2 months. It's September 15th to October 15th.
Yeah.
September, you also have Banned Book Week. We've done many episodes on gay books that have been banned.
Yes. Yeah.
And y'all are getting some of those.
And
in
y'all
your
are getting
collection.
some of the books in your collection.
I know. We are very excited. I can assure you of that. And what do you hope the legacy of the Rainbow Minute to be?
That's a good question. I would say in the beginning, we really started this because politicians were victimizing gay people for political gain, and that angered us so much. And it actually, they actually won office on that premise, and so we were so angry, and we wanted to be a force for change. So that's why we started it, and then the purpose just sort of evolved over time, like we were saying, because we wanted to talk about the things that were in the news about marriage equality, all those relevant topics.
And one of the relevant topics is marriage equality.
Mm-hmm.
We were somewhat activists going to Massachusetts when they started.
That was our marriage certificate, by the way. He didn't tell you.
Yeah, Provincetown marriage certificate. And so we went to Massachusetts. They started having same-sex marriage in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
We got there 2006. Brian says we were the fourth male couple from Virginia to get married there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a great day. It was 35 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And the wind was blowing 35 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
The justice of the peace showed up at the beach where we were going to do this, And she gets out of her car. She was this real gruff lady, and she gets out and she says, "You guys are nuts." But she was great. She was great. She almost she almost caused a tragedy during the.
And then a year later, a few years later, we saw a female couple getting married, and we saw that they had no photographer. So we offered to be their photographer, and we made all their wedding pictures of them getting married on the rock jetty.
Yeah.
We also donated a stone in the park there near where we got married, and it has our names, Judd Proctor and Brian Burns.
Oh.
So we've got our names there. It's an important place for us.
Absolutely. And let's talk about this too, because you've been together since 1993 and you got married in 2006 in Massachusetts. And that was the first state to legally recognize gay marriage.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time you lived in Virginia, which would not legally recognize gay marriage until 2014. So what was that like?
Well, I would say that we not only did we want to be married, and we thought that we deserved that right like everybody else. We wanted that right, that experience. That's a full experience that everybody should have the right to. But even though Virginia did not recognize same-sex marriage, we just were not going to let that stop us. People had told us no for too long, and so we did it. And
we did have a commitment ceremony in 1995. Which we thought of as a marriage.
Yeah.
We invited our friends, family, and my school teacher friends from work. Right now I'm a retired public school teacher. I used to teach in a school system outside of Richmond, and I taught mainly third grade and gifted students.
Yeah. And I have to say, one of the amazing things that I've noticed looking through your files on marriage equality is it's so interesting. You see articles from 2010, and more recent than that, where you have some LGBTQ sites that are like, hey, we want gay marriage, we're fighting for this, but we're not sure it's ever going to happen. And it's so interesting to look at those retrospectively and think, change is possible. And
yeah. Luckily, a lot of our episodes are what's the word when they're no longer valid? They're not evergreen anymore. We can't play them anymore because they're outdated.
Right.
The stuff that we're reporting in there is no longer true because, darn it, we've gotten marriage equality.
Yeah.
You should do like a throwback show.
Right.
It would be. It would be. And every country and every state, when it went down the list, if I found a state that opened up gay marriage or a country, I would do it on maybe two. And for a while there, just before we moved to Maryland, for a while the press would come to us because they knew we were married, and we were one of the only married couples that would talk to the press. So when Washington, D.C. had just gained marriage by their city council voting it in, Channel 6 came to us and said, would you make a statement? They came to our home and videoed us. And I remember saying, it's a great day in Washington, D.C. I am so proud of that city council there in Washington, D.C. What a great day for them.
See, Judd is the activist in our family. And, it's kind of interesting. Judd is an activist by nature. It's not work for him. It's almost like breathing to him. It just comes naturally. So.
And now Brian is the writer that makes everything sound gorgeous. He's written 3 books. He's Lewis Ginter's biographer.
Well, yeah, we started writing. I decided to write a Rainbow Minute about Lewis Ginter. I had found a sort of obscure book that talked about him and his male companion, and so I knew that there was more of a story there. So I started to research him and really just got hooked on him. Fascinating guy because he was this master entrepreneur, very just brilliant, almost genius level guy, if not a genius. And he lived from 1824 to 1897. He actually was the first major marketer of the hand-rolled cigarette in the South, which we can't really applaud, but for his time, that was a good thing because it was bringing the South back from the Civil War.
Yes, yeah, and he was a tremendous philanthropist too.
Yeah, I could tell you a funny story. One time, Brian would burn the midnight oil when he's reading about Lewis Skinner. And one night, about 2 o'clock, he came in the bedroom, woke me up, said, "You won't believe what I found." And I looked, and he said, "It's a New York Times article, and it says, 'Gay Days in Hot Springs.'" Well, that meant half days. But if you look at the article, it's talking about where the homestead is, and all the rich couples are hanging out there. And it starts listing the couples. And it lists Mr. and Mrs. Smith and Mr. and Mrs. Jones. And the last sentence says, "And even Lewis Skinner and John Pope have rented the Virginia cottage."
Yeah.
Well, that's a nugget in LGBT history because that's people identifying them as a couple with other couples. That's how research works.
And believe it or not, as long ago as that was, there wasn't the same homophobia then as there was here even 10 years ago. I think actually technically homophobia did not exist at that time because the concept of a homosexual identity had not even been established. So people didn't see themselves as being a gay person or a lesbian person. And also at the same time, your private life was your private life back then.
Yeah, absolutely. And you did have these categories too, right? Like you had Boston marriages and Wellesley marriages. So it seems like there was almost more of like an understanding of different couplings that could be made.
Sure. Yes.
And I do think that I feel like that goes back to your Harvey Milk quote. And I think one of the best things about the Rainbow Minute is that you show that LGBTQ people, we have always been here and we always will be here, and tearing down those stereotypes and those misconceptions. It's a great
Yeah. And I would also say that you asked what we hope the legacy of the Rainbow Minute would be. I would also hope that we helped somebody that was out there and struggling with their sexuality to come to terms with themselves and to live their lives more authentically. And if we did that for one person, then we've done a great thing.
Yeah.
Right. And if you provide role models for LGBT youth, that is an A+.
That's right. Absolutely. And I did want to just recognize that today is September 11th. It's the 19th anniversary of the terrorist attacks. And you guys have a number of research files and also episodes on Mark Bingham.
Yes.
So he was one of the passengers aboard United Airlines Flight 93 on September 11th, 2001. And
Right.
he's believed to be one of, I think, 3 or 4 men who are believed to have stormed the cockpit.
Right.
So we do have that episode. We want to listen to that.
Good.
On this day in history, coming up now on the Rainbow Minute. September 11th, 2001, Mark Bingham becomes a gay hero of 9/11. A 31-year-old Californian, Mark boarded United Airlines Flight 93 at the last minute and sat near the front. Many believe that he, along with several other passengers, attempted to storm the cockpit to try to prevent the hijackers from using the plane to kill hundreds or thousands of additional victims in Washington. In doing so, they sacrificed their lives and downed the plane near Pittsburgh. A businessman and champion rugby player, Mark was known for his competitive spirit. Because of his heroism on 9/11, The Advocate magazine showcased him as Person of the Year, and September 16th is officially designated as Mark Bingham Day in San Francisco. The Rainbow Minute is produced by Judd Proctor and Brian Burns and recorded in the studios of WRIR in Richmond, Virginia, and read by volunteers like me, Tom Miller.
It's amazing to think of the lives that were saved by that action.
Right.
Yeah, we just saw a show on TV last night about it. They've got several shows on, tonight and tomorrow night about it. it was what a time in history, right?
I know. And
You
I just
know-
think it's the Bingham story is also sort of one of these breaking stereotypes stories, because he was a gay man, but he was 6'4", he was an avid rugby player, and just
He was not the stereotype, and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
There's certain rainbow minutes that when we hear them sometimes we'll hear them in the car. We'll take a CD, and there's some that just put knots in our throat, even though we know. Whereas I have an interesting story. One of my volunteer readers, she happens to be transgender. She came in and she had never read before, but she had studied her script. We give them a script ahead of time. Brian had done a great job in editing it. And I said, well, let's go to the studio. They're going to play this. They're going to play a Rainbow Minute.
So she
and
could
you
see
can
how
hear how it sounds.
Yeah.
You get used to it. So we went in the studio, or you had the studio turn the mic up in our production room, and she started crying. And I thought, don't worry.
He thought she was going to be scared about this. Yeah.
Don't be scared. I'm going to train you. You'll sound perfect once we finish. She said, I'm not crying because of that. I'm crying because what the episode said. It said, gay marriage started in Connecticut today. I lived in Connecticut. I can't believe it.
Oh.
She started crying.
Well, see, I think that's beautiful.
That was,
from this.
I'll never forget that.
Yeah. And so we did talk about how, Brian, you feel like you were kind of pulled into activism. Judd, do you think you've always been an activist?
Me?
Well,
I have not. I didn't really consider myself an activist per se. I did feel good that I was doing this. I felt like I was making a difference. But it also gave me a creative outlet because I didn't have a creative job at the time.
Yeah.
And I really did get the bug. I really did get the history bug. I loved to
He got the history bug, definitely from the Rainbow. He definitely got the history bug.
And Judd, what about your experience in activism?
Oh, it probably started, I was a public school teacher in elementary school, and I started off the only male first grade teacher that the school system had ever hired. I had a good bunch of kids, and I had great parent support, and they'd help out in the classroom sometimes. So I did I was elected to go to the NEA convention, National Education Association convention, and I did join the Gay and Lesbian Caucus, but the first year I didn't join. I just walked around the door because everybody was scared to go in. It was the first year it started because teachers were scared that they'd be fired if somebody knew they were gay or lesbian. So the first year I didn't go in to the meeting, and then I regretted it. I said, I am going in next year. So I did go in, and I got elected to the board of directors. And I learned from the NEA about how to man mics and how to get pieces of legislation passed within the NEA. And I started with the help of a middle school and high school counselor. I started giving workshops about how to help gay and lesbian youth, LGBT youth. And RoseMe, which was the name of the youth group in Richmond then, they provided some students to be on a panel. So the counselors and teachers got to talk directly to the students and hear what their needs were. And that was so important. We did it at a downtown, we did it 3 times. The first time was at Julian's, the spaghetti place. We went to their basement, and it was a dinner included session. And then the last one was at Piccadilly cafeteria. And one of the, we were given the presentation, and the youth were talking, and one of the servers came up to the door and was listening in. and she looked like she wanted to clean the table, but she really wanted to hear what we were doing. And she raised her hand and she said, "I wish we had had a group like this when I was going to school." So you really hear about the importance of what needs to be done and how it can help people.
Absolutely. Yeah. Visibility, right, is so important. Yeah, for sure. Did you feel embraced when you were doing these things, Judd? Was it difficult?
It was, well, I asked one of my principals, I said, did you ever hear any flack from the school board about me doing these workshops?
Yeah.
And he said, yes. I said, what did they say? He said, well, Judd came to me and talked about what he was doing and how important it was to help people. And I thought it was a good idea.
Yeah.
So, and I said, well, what did they say then? He said, nothing.
Oh, I'm so glad you had that support from your principal.
That is, I had some great administrators and I got to know where they were in the school system. And I always put myself in one of their buildings because you should be, as a teacher, you should be treated like an adult and we can solve any problem if we work together.
Absolutely. Well, and I would say that you are both fully fledged activists now, and you're doing a great job of it.
Well,
Brian, little intro of that.
like I said, I would not call myself an activist, but I'll take that.
And we do, I do want to show, we do have some pictures. I think these are Judd, you were demonstrating outside of the Supreme Court when the Defense of Marriage Act and Prop 8 were being argued.
I was, and y'all are getting my protest signs.
That's right.
And I think you've got this one right here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got this. This was on both sides, so you got a cop. So I'm donating these protest signs.
They had to be around his neck because they would not allow protest signs on sticks because they were afraid that the sticks would be used as weapons. We were always making different things to put around his neck.
And I didn't go into the Supreme Court because those cases, there were so many people that were camping out like 5 days before the case and get their place in line. So I interviewed the people in line for about a series of 5 episodes of the Rainbow Minute. I just talked to why they were there and where they were from, why they came so far. And that was interesting to me. And news reporters, because I was wearing the sign, would come up to me and ask me my story. So I got to talk to them. And some of the newscasters were well known. They were regular anchors you see on TV. So I went up there 2 or 3 times and always wore a protest sign. And because we couldn't, we thought we wouldn't get married in Massachusetts because of a law they brought up. Mitt Romney was governor then, and he brought up a law that was keeping African Americans from marrying white people. They were using that to keep us out. But we got married in Provincetown because they had a good system. But we couldn't invite anybody because it was a possibility we wouldn't get married. So we had a party at our home and invited our friends, family. And we had a plywood cutout that you already have it. It's probably the largest item.
It is, yep.
In the collection. And there we are. Brian found an artist to draw that. We were actually not wearing black tuxedos, but we wanted to sort of camp it up a bit. And I was wearing green tennis shoes because we did get married on St. Patrick's Day in 2006.
And Judd is a serious collector of Converse high tops.
And I'm a serious Converse collector. And by the way, you get all of my gay Converse. So in the party, we told people, go over there and get married. Just stick your head through the cutout and you can get married. So we had every kind of combination, even pets were getting married.
It was so much fun.
I love it. It sounds like a blast.
Yes, it was.
So as you're saying, we do have that cutout in our collection.
Mhm.
And I do want to talk a little bit about the collection because it's quite vast and it's got some amazing items in it. So I was wondering if we could discuss that a little bit, maybe some of your favorites.
Yeah, and we'll show you ones you don't have. For a long time, we stored our stuff at the Diversity Richmond. There was a room that we could keep all of our stuff in because we were moving and we didn't have room in the new condo and we was paring down. So the museum came over to Diversity Richmond and picked up a load, I'd say almost 25 boxes of stuff. And then we brought another 15 boxes from here. And we've got about 15 more boxes to go, which include the majority of our books. And some of these books are rare and they're hard to find. And some of the other things include more of our gay dolls. They're characters in history that were turned into dolls, and a huge children's collection, which includes all the LGBTQ letters in it. A bunch of rainbow flags. One of them is the double. I just found this. It's a double rainbow. Very, very unusual. I don't know the significance of that. And then, you've already got a folder on Walter Shep. He was a true pioneer. He was a member of the Mattachine Society who created this little book. It's called the Sir Pocket Lawyer.
SIR, Pocket Lawyer.
SIR means Society for Individual Rights. And it's very small, so you can tuck it in your pocket. And gay men would put it in their pocket when they go to a gay bar because they might be arrested just for being in there.
So this was dated to what, Judd? Maybe the 50s?
This was the 50s, 60s, right. So basically it tells you what to do if you get arrested. And the main thing it says is deny everything.
Don't admit anything.
Don't tell them where you work because they'll put your name in the paper and put down where you work and you'll be fired. So I found this in Walter Shep's materials and I asked him if I could make a copy of it and I did. And for some reason he lost the original along with his Mattachine Society card. But I copied it ahead of time just in case. So we're going to turn these into the museum. And then and another thing is because people know we do the Rainbow Minute, they often give us stuff to put in archives. So you've got about 6 or 7 boxes of stuff from people, some anonymous, that wanted to put stuff in the archives and did. And I'm going to add another one. This little Swiss pocket knife says GLIB. My friend,
what does that stand for?
Bob, GLIB stands for Gay Lesbian Information Bureau. And it was started by a man named John Larimore. The story goes that he came into some money and he started this group, and it was a way to disseminate information and meet new people, information about the gay community. So I said, well, how did you get this? How did you get this pocket knife? He said, well, they had a big Christmas party, and John Larimore when you left, gave out little gift bags. And he said this was one of the things that was in the gift bag. And he's kept it, and he says that he wanted to turn it in
And what is
put
that?
it in the archives.
What is that date to? About what year?
This dates to about the 1990s.
Okay.
1990s. I love the idea of a pocket knife in a gift bag.
And then because of my activism in helping gay youth, and because I sponsored the first LGBT teacher gathering in Virginia, Dan Wogue, who wrote this book, interviewed me and created a whole chapter. So this is one of the things that is called Schools Out. And
what's the byline? The impact of gay and lesbian issues on America's schools.
And of course, you probably have a copy of this already, the Gay and Lesbian Richmond. And there's pictures of Brian and me in here.
Yeah.
So that's happening. And don't forget Sally Ride.
That's right.
Who was Sally Ride, Judd? Tell them.
Sally Ride was an astronaut that she died of, I'm not sure the illness, but it may have been cancer. And she advocated for girls to take science and be interested in science. And she wrote books about it.
Yeah.
Children's books about it. And her partner, Tam O'Shaughnessy, was also a writer. And sometimes they would jointly write books together.
Yeah.
Sometimes not. So when I found out that Sally died, I went online and bought as many books as I could that were written by them. And that's going to the museum too.
Wonderful. It's wonderful.
So there she is.
And so this is one of you have several gay dolls that were being gifted. This is one of those.
Right.
Yeah.
What were the other ones?
We've got Earring Magic Ken.
Earring Magic Ken.
And tell them that story, because that's kind of funny.
Now the story is, Mattel wanted to, they had heard that maybe Barbie needed a new boyfriend. So they did a survey with third and fourth grade girls and asked them, do you think Barbie should stay with Ken, or do you think she should get another boyfriend? And they said, stay with Ken, but make him cooler. So they created a doll with a lavender vest, pierced ear, blonde frock, dyed hair, and put it in a box, started selling them. And some of the parents said, well, it looks like Ken's gay.
Oh, there he is.
There he is.
So as soon as they said that, all the gay men ran out and bought these up.
Yeah.
Scooped them all up.
Because Mattel was going to take them off the shelves. Because
right, you have to get it. It's such
one of their artists had pulled a fast one on them.
I love that. I think it must have been very intentional.
Yeah.
And you also do have a number of children's books, which we are so excited about. I have two little ones at home, and I'm already ready to buy several.
I'm going to show you a couple.
Yeah.
Well, there's the author. There's the author. And, this book has a new cover. Heather has two mommies. This was one of the first books to address a family of two women with a child. And give me the other one too. It's another one that's different. And it's been around for a long time. It's not the very first book. There was a book that came out in one of the Scandinavian countries that actually was beat this one out. But if you don't recognize this cover, this is the way it was when it was first printed. And for some reason, the author has, this is the 20th anniversary, the author changed illustrators. And I looked through to see which one which one I like better.
Mhm.
But I noticed that the child in this new rendition
Mm.
smiles bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the dog looks like a wolf, doesn't look that scary.
Yes. And that's an amazing book that was quite controversial when it first came out. When was that
Oh,
book published? What was the copyright
it's
on
one of the banned. It's one of the banned books,
it? Yeah.
and they couldn't even put it in any schools.
Mhm.
This one was
Well,
1989.
originally, yeah.
Yep. Can you give me the airplane one? And I'll show you one more because this one, Amelia and Eleanor Go for a Ride.
Mhm.
It's a Scholastic book. And
Mhm.
I went to a Scholastic book sale on Williamsburg Road,
Mhm.
and they had a huge pile of these.
Yeah.
And I had just done the research for the Rainbow Minute, and I knew I had to buy this book. And I said out loud, I can't believe they have this book. Well, everybody in the store, in the big warehouse, started running around grabbing the books. And the pile was going down, 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 down. Probably sold 20 books just because I said, I can't believe they have this book. This book I love this book, and it makes a great gift to a lesbian couple.
So it's talking about Amelia Earhart and Eleanor Roosevelt being friends
And they actually go for a ride
in the plane.
in the plane.
Yeah.
Now, Eleanor Roosevelt had a same-sex partner, Lorena Hickok,
Mm.
and Eleanor wore a sapphire ring the whole time from Eleanor while she was in the White House.
No, from Lorena.
Yeah, Lorena Eleanor wore the sapphire ring from Lorena
While she was
in the White House.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that Amelia was not the type of woman that was going to do womanly chores. In fact, she told her husband, it was a while before they got married, and she told her husband, I'm not going to be the at-home mom.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to ask you where you're going, and you're not going to ask me where I'm going.
Mhm.
So they had an arrangement, and that's the way it stayed. So it was, I believe Franklin was in the plane too, but the two ladies did sit together.
So Judd, how many children's books do you think are going to go into the collection?
Oh, it's probably at least 50 to 75, maybe 100. And I want to keep the collection going. Like one, I just discovered a new one.
Mhm.
I'm going to order myself one and the museum one. It's called Mary Wears What She Wants. Well, they're talking about Dr. Mary Edwards Walker, who was the first woman surgeon and a huge dress reformer. She didn't believe women should wear these dresses that are too tight, that are like bustles and that drag in the dirt.
Yeah, that weighed 100 pounds.
She said they need to dress the way they can live a normal life.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to get this book. Mary Wears What She Wants.
So she wore pants, like men's pants, and during her time, that caused such an uproar.
Mhm.
People wigged out over that,
Yeah.
which we can laugh about now, but at the time, it was not funny.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be so thrilled to have that one. All right, I think with that comment, I do want to open up the floor to our online viewers. If anyone has any questions for Judd and Brian or comments, please post them and let us know. I do see that you guys do have a fan here. Someone says, Judd and Brian are the best. Love y'all. That's from Andrea Richardson.
Oh, good. Yeah.
And she also is asking, what was the coolest or strangest fact you used for the Rainbow Minute?
Wow, that's a tough one.
Oh.
The coolest or strangest fact.
Oh.
coolest or strangest fact? That is such a tough question.
I'm sure you've probably come across
Well,
them.
we did an episode. It's called "It's a Puzzle."
Oh, I have one too.
And Brian has one. It's a puzzle. Well, I went to the archives at William Way in Philadelphia. William Way is their LGBT community center. And I knew the archivist there. And I said, can I just look through here and just see what I can see? Come on up.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, he's a minute reader too. And
Mm-hmm.
used his research. So I went up and I found this puzzle. And I went online and found a little bit of information, and I found it. I took pictures of it and copied down text from the box.
Mm-hmm.
And what it was somebody's collection of LGBT buttons. And they put their collection out on a table and said, "Woo, this could be a good puzzle." So they gathered the buttons together, and and I read what some of the buttons said. And they got it produced by a company, and it was available for sale at Giovanni's Room, which is the gay bookstore there. And that was probably one of the oddest things. But Brian has one even odder.
So I can't remember. Was it Marion Joe Carstairs? Was that her name?
Marion Joe Carstairs.
Yeah. She was a Standard Oil heiress, and she had her own island in was it the Pacific?
In the Caribbean.
On the Caribbean, and
called Whale Key.
And she would invite her wealthy friends, a lot of them who were famous actresses, to the island. And she used to carry around this leather doll all the time, which was named Lord Todd Wadley. And they said, and it was said that she treated this doll like her dearest friend, and they were inseparable. And I think she also smoked cigars too, didn't she?
There are some wonderful pictures of her on her boat smoking a cigar. And
yes.
Yeah.
What a fascinating figure.
Yeah, so that's
she was something. She had built her own little radio station.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, her own little church, and her own little this and that.
And she built a little house for, who was it? Marlena Dietrich?
Marlena Dietrich. She built a house for her, so when she stayed in, they could be together.
Yeah. Such an amazing character she is.
So when we play that in the car, sometimes we'll always start laughing.
Yeah, we laugh every time. We've heard it 100 times.
It's such a collection of interesting facts that you would never know that anybody ever lived like that. And
she ruled over her own island with her leather doll, Lord Todd Wadley.
and some people believe that her doll was a voodoo doll.
Oh.
And the book, I don't know whether we've given you the book, but it's coming.
Okay.
Did we have you might have the book already, but it's coming. It has a picture of her with her doll on the cover.
Oh, okay.
Marion Carstairs, Marion Joe, she was called Carstairs.
And she did used to she wore like 3-piece suits. And she very much dressed in male clothing. And
yes, and wasn't she a powerboat racer?
Powerboat racer, right.
Yeah. So quite a character.
Yes, a great one. Let's see. Oh, we do also, Andrea does say, I'm not sure which book she's referencing, but she says, we read it at Drag Queen Story Hour. I wonder if that's in reference to
I just talked, Mary wears...
and
I remember talking to this is Dustin's wife. And by the way, Andrea was one of our volunteer editors, because once Brian started writing his books, he's written 3 history books on Richmond. The last being WRIR Richmond, which talks about Mary Garland Smith and her significant other. So she told me about that the drag performers reading the story in that bookstore.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked her the name of the book, and when she said the name, I was like, "Oh yes, that's great."
Oh, yeah, she's saying it's Mary wears what she wants. Yeah.
Yes, because that's what drag performers do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, they also wearing how they feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Plus, they're just having fun.
Yeah.
Oh, well, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I do think we're starting to run out of time. I do want to make sure before we end, where can interested viewers find episodes of the Rainbow Minute?
Yeah, it is still on the air, isn't it? One day a week.
It should be broadcast Monday at 7:59 a.m. and then
On WRIR 97.3 FM.
Yep, and then This Way Out airs it every now and then in their 30-minute show from Los Angeles, which is heard by 200 stations.
Mm-hmm.
And then every week, IMRU, the oldest LGBT radio show in the world, airs 2 Rainbow Minutes within their hour show.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a what's it called, a blog, not a blog, but
Magazine?
no, what's it called when you put audio out in it? They have a I can't think of what you call it.
A
But
vlog or
Podcast. Oh, to call it podcast.
podcast. Uh-huh.
So if you go to IMRU podcast, you'll find a list of the podcasts. There'll be 2 Rainbow Minutes in each one of those.
So that's spelled 4 letters, IMRU, but it has a double entendre. IMRU?
And in the past we had some of our text. The text of the Rainbow Minute would appear in North of the James magazine. That happened for 7 years, and then the Virginia Flame, back in 2009, put the text in their gay paper.
Yeah.
And then we have bookmarks.
You have some great bookmarks. They all have a story on them. They're wonderful. Yeah. Oh, there's Dr. Walter Shubb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can also find some episodes on Diversity Richmond's site too. Is that right?
Right. You just type in Diversity Richmond and the Rainbow Minute, and it'll come up. You'll see them.
They don't have all the episodes, but they've got maybe
about 70.
70.
Full of them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Judd and Brian. Oh, there we go. We've got the link right there. Thank you both so much for talking with us today and for all the amazing work that you do. It's been great. We're thrilled about this.
And we love talking about these issues. So if you ever want us to come back, like once we get everything moved, we can do something live in person if you want.
We would love that. We'll be calling you. All right. So today's program is one of our many live and recorded online programs produced by the VMHC. If you haven't already seen what we have to offer, go to virginiahistory.org/at-home to enjoy a selection of podcasts, webinars, virtual tours, and hours of recorded lectures. You can also reach us on Twitter and Instagram. And I would like to remind viewers that the VMHC is open with COVID-19 guidelines. So advanced purchase of timed entry tickets is required, and parties of 10 or more are not currently permitted, but you can come by and see us. So big thank you again to Judd and Brian. Thank you to everyone watching, and please stay safe.